Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on tonight? Welcome to the Mayhem Show with Mark May. I am so happy to have you here for episode number 27 of the Mayhem Show with Mark May with my special guest, Lewis Perry. I can't believe we're on episode 27 already, man. 2 months we've been doing this. 27 episodes. Crazy. And to think our biggest guest ever is tonight on episode 27. I am so excited. I don't know how to contain myself right now, honestly. I was just backstage talking to the man himself. Before that long-ass intro, it was a long, brutal intro. I don't apologize at all, guys. That's how I share it out to get all you guys here. I am so excited for tonight to have him on here. Guys, we are running the campaign for Hellbringers, The Ties That Bind Us right now on Kickstarter. Please check it out. If you haven't had a chance yet, please check out the campaign and back it for us. That would help us out a ton for the Hellbringers, The Ties That Bind Us. We will be sharing all that later in the show towards the end. But first, we are going to bring on my good friend, Mr. Lewis Perry.
Tower power, too sweet to be sour, funky like a monkey. Erik Larsen in the house. Check out the stellar background, baby. This is royalty right here. I cannot wait. You know, Mark, there's something about me you don't know. I like to draw too. Not many people know about that. And I got my inspiration to draw lips from Erik himself. The way he drew Mary Jane's lips, the way he drew Black Cat's lips, that's how I draw my lips, just like that. And I would like to share that with the man himself.
Man, here's the thing. Like, I don't know if you understand this. Like, but before you came on, it was just me and him talking for a second, and that was like one of the best feelings I had ever felt. I was talking to this guy. He's one of my heroes. So without any further ado, let's just go ahead and bring him on. Mr. Erik Larsen, everyone. Welcome to the show, my friend.
I don't know what to say. I'm in awe right now, and I've soared with the eagles, slithered with the snakes, been everywhere in between. I've talked to everyone, sir. You have eluded me forever. It's an honor. That's all I got to say about that.
All right, well,
an honor.
I haven't been trying to hide. It's just there's this COVID thing going around. I don't know if you've heard about it.
Well, I don't know. I requested you on Facebook like for so long, and you kept like denying my friend requests. So
yeah,
I'm gonna let Mark talk.
Jeez, Lewis, we're gonna start the show with that. We're gonna start the show with that, Lewis.
It's crazy there. Facebook is like they've got this hard 5,000 limit, and I'm just like. I've got like 1,500 people who are just sitting there going, "Can I be on your list?" Oh, you must hate me. Blah blah blah. And it's like,
I believe me, I totally get it.
I just can't. I can't add everybody because I just can't. So I just set my parameters to be as broad as possible. Anybody can comment on most all of the things. They can follow me, whatever. It's like it's all the same as being Facebook friends, but I don't have to see your pictures of your dog. It works out for me.
No, for me, you won't be seeing a picture of my dog. You'll be seeing me, my other co-hosts on the other shows I'm on, and all my toys. That's it. And me dancing around dressed up as Macho Man. That's what you'll be seeing of me.
That's all this fascinating, like, oh, look at all this cosplay. Check out the cool chicks I do pictures of. I've got my arm wrapped around them, and I got my hover hand going. It's like, all right. I don't need
well, it's a pleasure, man. It's a pleasure to finally meet your acquaintance.
And Erik, I want to tell everybody on air what I just told you before we got on the show here, and that is you have been such an incredible influence on me via social media ever since I got on Facebook and started doing all this. If Erik even goes back in his messages, he can see back from 2015 when I used to like send him just pictures of drawings, just being like, "What do you think? What do you think?" You know? And he would always like give me an awesome critique, and it helped so much, like the way he would critique. And here's the other thing is, he's a huge Jack Kirby fan, which I am too. So I would always see his post in the Jack Kirby group on Facebook. He's one of the most knowledgeable men I think I've ever met in this business. And I can say that now because here he is, folks.
Now that once you start talking me at any length of time, you'll come to a completely different conclusion. But let's just jump off with that. Okay.
But here's the thing is, it was funny. It's like, man, I think you're awesome. I think you're a huge influence on me, and I'm really happy that you're on the show. And you made sure that I told everybody that when we got back on the show. So.
All right.
Boom.
I'll take that.
Boom. So I got to ask you one question before we move into Lewis has got the next one.
Right.
When you go to conventions, what is your favorite food to eat and what city?
Well, it used to be that I would go to Dick's Last Resort when I go to San Diego, but Dick's Last Resort is now closed, and so San Diego is off my list.
Oh man, that's the one where they throw the napkins at you and get all pissed off.
Yeah. It's like
refills, right?
Yeah, that place is closed. So usually, the convention I most like to go to is New York Comic Con, and New York is just like a great eating town anyway. So it's not necessarily that I'm going there for the same thing over and over again. It's just I'm going there to go to whatever I can find. Like, what else is good? I want the good stuff. So, but I'm always down for a good cheeseburger. You can. I'm a cheap date.
Megatom's in Las Vegas, Eric. It is the best cheeseburger I think I've ever had in my life.
Add it to list. Send pics.
Eric, what are some of the questions? I deal a lot with celebrities, and I'm always moderating panels. And how I always open it is I ask a very simple question. I lay ground rules out for the crowd by saying, what are the questions you're tired of answering, don't want to answer anymore, or you can't answer? I'm going to give this to you right now. What are the questions are you just done, tired of answering? So we don't ask you that tonight, and our listeners and our audience down here won't put them in the comments. What?
Well, the thing is
just like, no, I don't want to ask
every one of these. Everybody wants to do the history of, how'd you break into comics? How did Image start? How did you get Spider-Man? And those are all like those are just meat and potatoes kind of questions, which is like, all right, that's stuff's somewhat easy to just kind of buzz through, and you just end up with pat answers to stuff. Nothing really pisses me off particularly. Though the one thing that can happen on occasion is people will ask, what do you think of this guy's art? And it's like, I don't want to get into a position where I feel like I'm slamming my fellow professionals. Everybody's doing their best, even if their best is.
You're not going to have to worry about that on this show, Eric. I promise. We're not about that lifestyle. So.
Well, I don't want somebody coming back to me later on and just going, "Oh, I can't believe you said that my stuff is terrible." Yeah. It's like, sorry about that. You do better work, and I won't be saying your stuff is terrible.
Have you ever had to look at someone's art and be like, you need to work a little bit more?
All the time. Doing portfolio reviews at conventions is like the worst, because it's the most thankless task you could possibly have at a convention. Because if somebody is terrible, you have to tell them that they're not very good. And there's a lot of people who get really, really incensed or pissed off or whatever, because you've just burst their bubble. They've been the best artist in their neighborhood, and the best artist in their school, and the best artist in their house, and their mom tells them they're great, and all their friends tell them they're awesome. And then they step into this other world where suddenly the competition is a lot stiffer, and they're terrible, and you got to be like, whoa, what's going on here? And you try to be friendly about it, or I try to be as friendly about it as I can be, but there's definitely things do come up where you're just like, man. So
Yeah,
two left hands, you're going with that, or whatever.
It's funny because Eric, like I think you're great at portfolio reviews, and a lot of times the tougher you are, the better on people.
Well, the thing is, though, that some people take it well, and some people really, really don't, and it's tough for those who have a super thin skin, because those guys are really invested in being awesome, and when they're not, it's just really, really, it's hard to deal with that, and hard to deal with them.
Rob, I'm one of them, buddy. Rob says it's crazy, though, because there are a lot of artists out there that have anatomy challenges that are working consistently. I'm going to tell you,
absolutely.
I'm 6 years in illustration. I'm going to be learning anatomy for the next 40 years. So,
I would consider myself one of those with an anatomy challenge who is working.
I think you're great.
No, are you crazy?
Sure. It's all sorts of stuff. I know that I've got all sorts of things that I come up with my own visual shorthand for doing all sorts of stuff, but that doesn't mean that I'm not making things up, and it's like, I make backs look cool drawn like this. Well, is that what an actual back looks like? Not really, but it kind of approximates it somewhat, some of these muscles kind of look like it.
But you if I can interject for 1 second,
go ahead.
I was first turned on to your art through Spider-Man, and you made Peter's backflip and how he moved and everything he did. You made it believable in the comics. So it was like, for me, as I was reading that story, it was like, wow, it was Spider-Man. I actually, in my mind's eye, this is how he would do it. I mean, you nailed it.
Don't look at my little corner guy on the cover too long, or you'll realize that he has no torso. I don't know. There's nowhere for his torso to exist in that picture. It's like, oh, well, that's cool. It's a neat looking picture, but if you think about it too hard, it's like, oh, this doesn't work at all. And when I'm on Spider-Man, I was totally just looking at, all right, I got to look at Gil Kane. I got to look at Steve Ditko more than anybody else. And then, whoever else was bringing it, you just kind of go, okay, well, what is it? Who did Spider-Man particularly well? And just kind of try and suck in enough of that to make it work. I mean, everybody was kind of ripping off the way Michael Golden was drawing his webs, when he was spinning out webs. He was kind of the guy who really used the crazy webs consistently. He did a couple short stories where he was using it, and I was like, oh, that looks cool. Because you look at the Ditko stuff, and he would occasionally do kinky webs, but he wasn't doing it regularly enough. Okay. Golden did it cool, so it's like, all right, I got to pick all the cool parts that everybody's doing. How do I do an awesome Spider-Man? It's like, all right, well, let's look back at those villains when they were introduced, find them in their most iconic states, return them to that. If you can, if you're totally incapable of it, then try and find whatever's cool to be found in those characters. And hope somebody responds positively to the whole thing.
Well, I think
I tell you,
responded positively. So I think you did pretty good for yourself on that one. Go ahead, Lewis.
I was just going to say some of my most memorable of reading Spidey is how you created him with his ripped mask and his eye lenses cracked. I mean, to me, that was just beautiful. It was, and I said it, earlier. I do like to doodle. I do like to draw, and I model every time I do draw a female, and this includes Wonder Woman, whoever I draw. I model my female lips after the way you draw their lips, because I love the way you do that. So I was like, dude, there you go. And because there is one panel that always sticks out. It's a black cat and Peter on top of the roof. He was just got through fighting the Sinister Six. His mask is all busted up, and there was this beautiful headshot of Black Cat, and I just fell in love with that piece. And that was like, from there on, how you drew her lips is how how I would do every time I do any type of thing. I would draw lips just like that, and that influence from
you. So Eric, I was a 6-year-old reading these books.
Oh my god!
I mean, right into the back series, man. I literally, I loved it. Like, it was my favorite. We also had a question right here, which we were going to leave to a segment question later, but I'm going to let an audience member ask it. Chris Graves asked, who influenced Erik artistically? Let's ask you that.
Well, Jack Kirby early on, of course, because that was a huge one. Herb Trimpe was my gateway drug into buying comic books. My dad had bought comics when he was a kid, so we grew up with all his old comics. But I wasn't getting new comics. We were just kind of enjoying all of his old comics that he had bought when he was a kid. So I grew up with a long collection of Captain Marvel Adventures, and he had a bunch of all the EC stuff. He basically bought comics until they stopped making comics for people his age. So he grew up with comics, and then the EC stuff came along, and then they stopped making the EC stuff, and it was like, all right, I guess there's nothing for me anymore. And so that's when he stopped buying comics. But somehow or other, I ended up with an issue of The Incredible Hulk, 156. And that was just like, oh, this is the most awesome thing I've ever seen in my life. And I was totally stoked about that particular comic book. And at some point, I started getting other issues of The Incredible Hulk. And a lot of those were very influential early on. So Herb Trimpe, Jack Kirby. When I saw Gil Kane, I was all about Gil Kane. Walter Simonson. I would put Frank Miller and John Byrne in there somewhere. In the inking of Klaus Janson and Terry Austin, there's little bits and pieces of both of those. And when I look at my own work, it's just sort of an amalgamation of all my favorite dudes. It's like, oh, okay, that's a Trimpe bit, that's a Kirby bit, that's a Kane hand over there.
Erik, we do have something from Joe. Erik, I'm sorry. Mark, we have something from Joe McDonald for Erik. Do you want to pull that up on the screen, please?
Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Before it comes up, Joe McDonald says, still loving the dragon after all these years. Looking forward to what you will be doing with Ant. Any hints you could share?
Well, Ant in particular is I'm kind of, in a way, starting over just because there's never been a decent origin story with her. So I kind of wanted to go, okay, well, let's really take this from the beginning and do a first issue that is a first issue rather than a continuation of what's gone before. So it's not a hard reboot, but it's something of a reboot in that it's starting over. I'm basically not saying all this stuff which has come before didn't happen, but I'm just kind of going, all right, well, you were all over the map when you were doing that when the original Ant book came out. Essentially, okay. Mario just wanted to get to the fun stuff, and he wanted to skip all this stuff, all the setup. So he just had, well, I'm already famous, and I've already done all this stuff, and everybody already knows me, and I'm already an established hero, and I've already got a bunch of villains, and here's my next adventure. And it's like, well, that's great, because then you don't have to do a lot of the introductions of characters meeting.
Whoa. Mark, what happened?
That was Erik Larsen.
And I am Louis Perry from the Angry Geek Show. I am with Mark May. While we're waiting for our guests to come back, Mark, why don't you tell us a little bit about the newest Kickstarter that you got going on? That way we can get this up and running. Any future projects from you while we're waiting for Erik to come back?
Absolutely, ladies and gentlemen. Are you ready for the commercial? Here it comes. Here comes that commercial.
Here it comes.
Greetings from California. It's the fallen angel, Christopher Daniels. Now, anyone that's followed my career knows that in addition to being a professional wrestler, I'm also a huge comic book fan. Now, usually I'm a Marvel guy, but I'm also very appreciative of the guys out there making their own comics, doing independent comics, doing it themselves. With that in mind, I want to talk to you today about Silent Mayhem Productions. They're the guys behind Hellbringers, the card game, and Hellbringers, Sacred Heart, and Dawn of the Devil. Now, the next chapter in the Hellbringers saga is coming out, and it's called The Ties That Bind Us. And the guys behind the series, the writer Mark May, artist Ron Charles Williams, colors by Becky Fuller, letters by McLean McGuire, and the cover art and the graphic design by Russ Cassidy. These are the guys that are bringing the next chapter to life. On June 28th, they've got a Kickstarter to help fund the next chapter of Hellbringers. So go to silentmayhemproductions.com. Keep in touch, keep involved with the Kickstarter coming up. And guys, I just want to tell you best of luck with the new chapter. Keep making great comic books, and I'll see you later.
Again, coolest promo video ever. That dude knew exactly what to say without me having to tell him anything. Love him. We got Mr. Erik Larsen back, folks. Sorry you had to sit there.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the man, the myth, the legend, the creator of the Savage Dragon himself, Erik Larsen. Welcome back, sir.
Welcome back.
Welcome back, sir.
Hey, you're a Dave Sim fan too, right, Erik? I know that about you because I asked Dan Fraga what I should ask you tonight, and he said, talk about Dave Sim.
I did read Cerebus when it was coming out. I haven't been following his stuff of late, mostly because I just don't see it. So if he's doing great stuff, awesome. If he's not doing great stuff, well, that's too bad. But I bought Cerebus until the bitter end. So
I had to ask about Kirby, Sim, and then Trippy. So we got Kirby and Trippy in the previous question. So I figured I'd talk about Sim right there.
Right.
So
Erik,
go ahead, Louis.
Oh, I was just going to ask: do you still collect? Do you still go to buy comics?
Since the pandemic hit, I haven't been going very regularly.
Okay,
but there has been times when it's been, hey, this new thing is out, and it's like, all right, I gotta go. I gotta go get that.
all right.
But there weren't any regular Marvel DC books that I was getting regularly towards the end there. So it was sort of like, all right, I'm kind of struggling to find stuff I really want. Most of the comics that I like were comics from Image. And since I'm one of the owners of Image, I'm on the comp list, so I get all those books. So I get like a monthly shipment of like everything, so I can be.
Oh wow, that's pretty incredible, actually.
Yeah, so it works out all right. So if there's anything that I'm like, oh, I really can't wait to read this. It's like it'll show up. Just give it a day.
Because my follow-up question with that is, to me, sir, you are a legend. You are up there on a pedestal. Do you get mobbed if you go into an LCS to pick up a book? I would be fanboying out if I was standing in line and turn around and there you were. I would be like,
fanboying like this. Like that's what I want to know is how do you handle a guy like this fanboying? So I'll know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just hey, nice to meet you, I guess.
Stop sweating on me. No,
please don't follow me home. No, for the most part, when I go into a store, it's the same as when you go into a store, and then it's generally not packed to the hilt with all sorts of people. And then, when there's like even when there's 7 or 8 or 9 people that are in a store, they don't all necessarily know who the hell I am. So, and I don't ever go to a store and I'm never like, hey, check out who's here, this guy. It's like if the retailer happens to know who I am and they want to talk to me, whatever, that's fine. But I'm not going to make a big stink out of, hey, check it out, local talent.
That's not what I do, folks.
That's just obnoxious.
I'm Mark May, guys. I'm Mark May. Right here.
Hey, famous guy right here, super famous, drawing a bunch of comics. Don't know if you've heard of me. It's like some dude has just come in to buy his issue of Swamp Thing. He doesn't give a shit. He's just like, oh, man. I don't care. You drew Spider-Man 30 years ago? Really? That's impressive. Awesome. Good job,
Mark, do you have anything before I get to my next question?
Oh, yes. Mr. Larsen, I have to ask you, when that big moment hit, when you guys decided that you guys were going to go for an image, like, what were the conversations like before then? Like, what was the moments like? What was the tension like? What made it happen? Like, what caused that fire? You know what I mean?
It just seemed like the right time, more than anything. It kind of came about because Rob was interested in finding out if the people who were buying his comics would follow him over to another comic book company. So he was like, "Well, if I did a Teen Titans book over at DC, would they follow me to that? If I did a book over at Malibu and they followed me to that, what would happen?" So at one point he took out an ad in the Comics Buyer's Guide for something. He just was like, well, I don't see why DC doesn't do X books. I don't see why all these other companies don't Marvel can't own the letter X. Just do some other book, but have it begin with an X. So he had this idea of, I'll do a book and I'll call it, I think it was The Exterminators, and I'll just have there be a bunch of dudes in there. So he did a drawing and he took out an ad in the Comics Buyer's Guide, and Marvel just kind of lost their minds, just like, you can't do this, we're going to sue you, and all this other stuff. And they really just read him the riot act. And I think that was like the absolute worst reaction that they could have had, because at that point it was like, oh, these guys are really afraid that this, I could go and it would be popular and it would hurt them in some way. And so at that point it was kind of blood in the water. It was like, oh, I get it. These guys are scared shitless that we're going to all leave and do something. And at that point, we had already talked with people in Malibu, and Dave Aldrich had said to me, I went out to dinner with Dave, Jim Valentino, and Rob Liefeld. And so we had a nice dinner, and Rob was like, hey, could I do a book with you guys? Would you guys publish a book by me? and Dave's like, well, of course I would. Published by any of you guys. So at that point, it was like, all right, that sounds awesome. And it was like, here's a guy who would publish our stuff, and we could. And so it just became this internal thing of talking about it. And once Todd had heard about it, it was like, oh, why didn't you guys tell me you were doing this? That sounds awesome. And so then it became, and then once Todd was on board, he was actively trying to get guys. He was trying to recruit like crazy. So, so he would just go to any convention and just be there. Be like, oh, you got to Get Mark on the book. He'd be a good guy. Get him going. Get that Jim Lee guy. You know, he'd be awesome.
That has to be the best Todd McFarlane imitation I've ever heard. Oh.
Sorry about that.
No, it's funny. It's very funny. No disrespect to Mr. McFarlane, but that was pretty spot on. And Chris Graves says, I love how all the artists have a Todd impression. That was by far the best I've ever heard.
Yeah, those image meetings, it would start off and it would be like 5 normal guys and Todd in a room. And then by the end of it, we were all doing like these terrible Todd McFarlane impersonations. And they varied quite a bit because some were pretty good. Rob's was pretty good. Mine's pretty good. Mark's was not very good. And Valentino's was just awful. But you knew enough that it's like, I know who you're trying to do here. We're just going to pretend that was awesome.
With streaming services today, now we all know about the Savage Dragon cartoon. Is there any chance of bringing Dragon back to the silver screen or even the small screen with the streaming services? If you had a chance to do so, which streaming service would you choose?
I don't give a shit. I don't care. Anyone. It doesn't matter to me.
Really?
Right now,
really?
They're running the crappy old cartoon from the USA Network. That's on Peacock right now.
Peacock, yeah. I'll be honest with you. I binge watched the whole series again.
I'm sorry about that. One of the episodes I've never entirely seen. I just fast forwarded through it. It's just like, all right, this is unbearable.
If you could bring it back. Now, I asked this question to a lot of different creators as well, because you, like Netflix, you will have total creative. Oh, no. If it's going to go on Netflix.
There's no place where you get total creative control, because there's always somebody who's like, I'm sorry, sir. This may be you may own this, and this may be your creation, but we're the guys spending the money. We're going to decide who plays your guy and what they sound like and everything else. And that ultimately is the problem with it, is you go, can I just have just something, just a little, just toss me a bone. And
well, that was my next.
You know,
go ahead. No,
there's no complete control over any of that stuff. So, you know, to a degree, you just have to go, let me just find somebody I can stomach and just trust them that they're going to do a good job with it. But I'm not a big consumer of that sort of stuff. I just love comic books, and I want to do comics all the time. So it's like if somebody contacted me and said, "Oh, I want to do it," and I'm a straight up legit guy and can do a good job. It's like, all right, just do it and have some fun. I'll write a pilot for you or something. But
okay, well,
I don't want to be
my follow-up.
I don't want to be that guy who's like, I'm going to go down to Hollywood and I'm going to hang out with the actors and I'm going to tell them blah, 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 and do all this. It's like, I want to make comics. I got into comics to make comics. So.
Okay. Well, my follow-up to that was, what medium would you like it? Would you like it CGI? Would you like it animated or live action? That would have been my follow-up question.
Don't care. Don't.
Wow.
Doesn't matter to me. I think live action would be cool, but you know, there's going to be some problems you're going to have. It's like, nobody's built like this, and you can't make anybody be built like this. So, you know, at least their torso and upper body is going to have to be CGI. You know, so
yeah.
It's like, can you just give somebody a partial, put a fin on somebody's head, and then just bulk the crap out of his upper body?
When we need him, man.
Well, the only person that pops into my head is The Rock, Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah, and even that,
he's already
you go, if you actually look at a picture of him and then a picture of him where you just take his muscles and just make them dragon-sized, you go, this guy's not even close. And also,
true.
He's way too tall as far as dragon goes.
Yeah.
Dragon's 5'10".
Yeah.
So, but I don't care. Like, if somebody can do a good job with it, I'd be totally happy to let them just go, just here's the comics, make them something like this, and just go and have your fun. I'm going to continue making more comics because I got into this to do that.
A different series to give it another try to see if it could be way better. Because honestly, I'd like to see it. I guess my next question for you, Erik, is what advice do you have for all the younger artists out there that are watching this show right now? Can you tell them?
Just give it up.
This was 7 years ago, guys.
What the hell, man?
Myself a lot.
I don't mean to be the guy who's crushing your dreams, but somebody's got to do it. For Christ.
Say it in Todd's voice. He'll be all set.
Right. I think everybody, it's just, find the stuff that you want to do and do it. Don't let anybody else kind of get in your way and stuff like that. The goal should be to tell your stories. So I made comics for myself for years and years and years before I ever was remotely professional. And I self-published a comic when I was 19. And I was doing some, really small stuff really early on with what any publisher who would give me a sideways glance. It's just, just something. I just want to get better. And if it means working for a crappy little guy who doesn't pay me at all and stiffs me and does whatever, it's like, you know what? I'm going to take that because I want to draw from somebody else's script. I want to draw some pages. I know I need to get a certain amount of work under my belt before I get to be any damn good. And that's a learning process. And you can either do that on your own in your room and not show anybody and not get any feedback, or you can go and work for anybody who will have you and get experience that way. But, if you want to be an artist, you got to draw. If you want to be a writer, you got to write. That's the biggest hurdle with a lot of these guys I'm seeing is they just don't. When are you going to actually do the stuff? Because you got to do the stuff. You can't just be like talking about making comics. You got to just make some comics. And then people do these fan things all the time where they're just like, I'm just doing fan fiction and my character's going to meet Superman and Batman and all this. Go ahead, do that. There's no shortage of places to show your work these days. It's awesome. But between Facebook and DeviantArt and all these other platforms where you can show stuff, and if you're at all good, people will suddenly be sharing it with other people. They'll be like, oh, have you seen this? Oh, have you seen that? When I'm at conventions, I've had other comic book professionals drag guys by their arm over to me and go, you got to look at this guy's stuff. He's awesome. And it's like that happens, It's like, because everybody wants comics to be as good as they can be. Everybody wants this stuff to be awesome. Every publisher is sitting there going, we want the best guys. We want to sell more copies. There's no publisher who's like, no, stay away. All good guys, go. We don't want you. We only want terrible guys. It's like they want to sell comic books. Everybody wants to sell comic books. They're all in this for the same thing. And a lot of this stuff, it's like everybody's doing, you may not like every comic that's out right now, but everybody's doing their best work. That may make you sad, but,
No, not at all.
everybody's trying their best. This is it.
Not
this
at all.
As good as it gets. I'm sorry.
Usually I'm full when I'm here on this show with Mark, I'm full of shenanigans, and I got the soundboard going off with a whole bunch of stuff. Tonight, well behaved, and I'm just captivated by you, listening to everything that you're saying. Hey, Joe Goulart's in the house. Mark, do you have anything for our guest? You've been very quiet.
I have.
Yes.
This is one of the only times I think I've actually been listening.
I mean, I can go on and on. Erik, what is the one character that you've always wanted to work on but never had a chance to work on? Is there any specific character that always caught your eye from since you were a kid and you never had a chance to have that work published? That one character was never published. You never got a chance to work on that character and have him published.
I was a big Captain Marvel fan growing up. So Fawcett Captain Marvel. So one magic word, Shazam, whatever. I mean, when I was...
Thank you for that. Thank you.
When I was growing up, I had all the real Captain Marvel comics because it was my dad.
Thank you again.
All the Fawcett stuff. So it was like that was my Captain Marvel was Fawcett's Captain Marvel, and even now I've got like 120 issues of Captain Marvel Adventures and a bunch of issues of Wiz and Marvel Family and stuff like that. So it's like I love that stuff.
Yeah,
but I'm completely incapable of it. It's just not something that I do a great job with. And so it's sort of like one of those things that, I love this guy, but I'm absolutely the wrong guy for it. Because I would be yet another guy who's like, yeah, you didn't get it either. It's like, God damn it.
We do have some... Joe Goulart says, Erik, who was the best inker you have ever worked with?
That's always a tough question. It's because it's so subjective. It depends on a bunch of different things. Terry Austin was really good. I really enjoyed his work a whole lot. He did a few issues of Amazing Spider-Man. He inked me on a Excalibur serial in Marvel Comics Presents, and he inked me on an issue of Strange Tales. So it's like, there's some good stuff in there. I really like Terry's stuff. Walter Simonson inked me in a story in Savage Dragon 100, and it was like, that was...
And it's commercial.
And once again, we'll have to wait for our guest, Erik Larsen, is having some difficulties. We are having storms here in New England.
She seeks her husband, the devil. With a natural travel to the ancient capital of Citadel. They're sneaking through the volcanoes, slave and across God's eyes.
gentlemen, that was the last ad of the night. We got Mr. Larsen back, ladies and gentlemen. Here he is.
All right. I don't know why this is happening to me, but there you go.
Are you having what area? Whoa, you were getting wicked feedback. What area of the country are you in, sir?
I'm in San Francisco. So if you're wandering around town and you see one of those huge old Victorian houses, I am living in one of those.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, okay. All right.
Oh.
In my area, we're having wicked thunderstorms right now, and now I'm getting feedback. I think the
All right.
soundboard.
Awesome.
Yeah, there you go. I think that's a little better.
Well, I'm
And
not
to
hearing
answer
you
your
crazy
question-
on my end, so.
Okay, to answer your question, I am teaching Mark as we go.
Scrap that. We understand. We don't have to tell him on air, Louis. God.
Yeah. So to continue where I left off with inkers, because there's a lot of them.
Yes, please.
So, I mean, I worked with Al Gordon off and on for a number of things. He did some issues of Spider-Man and stuff like that. Al's a totally solid inker, and I shared a studio with him for a number of years. So he's a good guy. Bruce Timm inked me on a job, and it's like, oh, that's awesome, because he's super good. And like I said, Terry and Walt are both great. I finally got to work with Klaus Janson on a couple of issues of Thor and on a few issues of the Defenders, and that was awesome. I mean, he's just a super talented guy who brings a lot to any pencil stuff. And then Bill Sienkiewicz inked some stuff over my work, and it was like, it's just crazy to see how he interprets stuff. It's like, all right, that's not the approach I would have used, but more power to you. You know, it's like he'll just come in and noodle the crap out of something that you weren't thinking he was going to noodle the crap out of, and then just kind of shit some other thing out. Where it's just like, hey, you spent some time on that. And it's like, God, you know. It's like, you know, so there's the two ends of it where he's just like, I'm really going to town on this, and then I'm really not going to town on that. And it's kind of interesting just to see what he focuses on, what he doesn't focus on, and it's very kind of all over the place. And I love it. You know, it's cool as hell. So
Bill Sienkiewicz's artwork is very, you look at it and you're like, I knew who drew that. And his covers on the New Mutants, I remember picking one of them up, and I remember taking my head going, just like tilted it. I was like, wow. Because he's another brilliant artist, and his style, much like yours, is you just look at it and you can immediately tell who worked on that book or who drew that cover. Just brilliant. Just brilliant.
Joe Goulart asked, is there an inker you wish you had worked with?
There's guys who I wish I worked with more, because like Joe Sinnott inked me a little bit on a couple jobs where it's like, here's a cover or a pinup or a couple pages, and I would have liked to have had him ink an issue of something or more pages. I mean, all the older guys like Wally Wood and Frank Giacoya and stuff like that, but those guys were like, you know, dead when I started. So it's like, all right, can't work with a dead guy. You know, you know. But I worked with a bunch of dudes who were just sort of guys who I always wanted to work with in some capacity. So it's like I got a bunch of the dream guys. It would have been cool to see like Steve Ditko ink something, but I got to ink Ditko on a Human Torch job, so that was kind of fun. But, and then I got to ink Jack Kirby on a couple little things here and there. So it's like, that's cool. And in Savage Dragon 200, I traded a job with Herb Trimpe where he penciled a story that I inked, and then he inked me on a story that I penciled. So it's like that was pretty awesome. It's like, oh, I grew up with this guy's stuff, and now we're working together. Sweet.
I mean, that is pretty amazing. Guys, Ron Charles Williams in the house. That was who we saw in the video just a second ago for the interior artwork of the book. Awesome to see Ron watching the show for Mr. Larsen tonight. Chris Hibbert says Wally Wood was great. I agree. Wally Wood was incredible.
Yeah.
And then Brian Rose says, rest in peace, Jason. All right.
So,
guys, it is 7:56, which means there's a guy over here that needs to go to sleep. So
not 7:56. It's 9:56. 9:56, and it is pumpkin time for me because of 4:00 wake up time for my day job at Toolmax, designing and tooling for all your aerospace needs.
Wow.
Mark, why you gonna make me do it tonight with the royalty?
Cut it in front of
Oh my
royalty.
God! All right, really quick. Because of Eric being here. Why can't you understand? I want to be like Superman, fly up high in the sky with X-ray vision in my eyes. Tonight we had royalty in the house, the one, the only Savage Dragon himself, Erik Larsen. How was that? I was on the spot, man. I was just like,
That was awesome. That was awesome.
holy cow! You put me on the spot. I wasn't prepared. Well, thank you, sir. That was specifically for you, and I want to say thank you for everyone for joining us tonight. I'm sure you guys are going to be hanging out for a little bit, and for the people that show up here for me for my rants, sorry, not tonight. I was on my best behavior because this cat down here was royalty. I'm looking forward to more Savage Dragon books, my friend. You are huge influence. You are just awesome. Brian, thank you. Thank you for all your support, Brian Rose. Good night. He's a great independent comic book guy right down there, Brian Rose.
All right.
Sir.
Pleasant dreams, man. Get
Thank
some
you.
sleep.
I am. See.
All right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Lewis Perry. He was out of here for episode 27. It is just me and Mr. Larsen from here on out. I got a couple more questions for you, and I'm going to let you off the hook, Mr. Larsen. You good with it?
All right. Excellent.
So you've had an incredible show tonight. The segments that we have talked about have been really good. A lot of people probably don't know the information that we talked about on a lot of the stuff. I guess one of the things that we haven't talked to you about, though, is where do you want to go now from here? We know what you've done in your past. What's this next big thing that's going to be coming up for you?
This was it, man. This was where I wanted to be. It's like I'm working all my life to get to this point where I am, and it's like the goal was always to make comic books. So now that I'm doing that, it's like I just want to continue to do that for as long as people will put up with it. So, if I can do Savage Dragon to issue 300 or 400 or 500, it's like, I'll do that. I'll hang out as long as people will put up with me. As long as my wife lets me do it. She's ultimately in charge. That's good.
Oh, dude. I'm learning all about that right now. I didn't know anything about that for the first 4 years of my career.
All right.
I guess that leads to the question of what comics or characters do you potentially have that are new that might be coming out soon?
Well, there's always new characters. I'm creating new characters on a continuous, ongoing basis. So, in terms of Ant, all of those villains that are going to be showing up in Ant are just going to be new characters for the most part. There'll be a couple that I'll pull in every now and then just to be like, hey, here's somebody you might recognize. But for the most part, it's going to be, all new cast, all new villains, all new characters, all new situations, stuff like that. So that book is a fresh new baby being born, where everything is new and fresh and wonderful. And then on Savage Dragon, as that book's gone on, now it's Dragon's son who's the lead character, and so I just keep adding to his rogues gallery so he can have new characters and stuff like that. They're very different kind of books, though, because they're very, very different kind of agendas of the two titles. So it's been kind of nice because they're so different that I can tell one kind of story with one book and one kind of story with another. The two characters look very different, and they move very differently. So it's nice to be able to have the break from one to go and do the other, and be able to kind of pop back and forth.
So let me ask you this: with all that you have succeeded in the comic industry, what's been your favorite moment in this entire thing? Like, what's been like one moment that's just like, oh my god, like this is great? Like,
I don't know that I have one particularly. It's mostly just been being able to work. I mean, every issue is I'm excited to do the next one. So, that magic moment of, oh, I've done 250 issues in a row, awesome, and then becomes, oh, now I've done 260 in a row, awesome, So every issue is another milestone for me, at least. It feels like it. Like, hey, this is something I've never done before. I've never done an issue this or the issue of that. So it's all exciting to a degree, And then being able to work on characters you grew up with is that's fun too. To be able to work with other creators that you've always admired is awesome. To be able to take new talent and help develop them and turn them into something amazing. It's like super rewarding and great to be part of. I mean, that's the thing, is when you're in the industry and been doing it for a while, you get to see a lot of guys that are coming up, and they'll be like, start off terrible and they get like better and better and better, and you're like, oh, this guy's like a train coming at me. You don't really realize what it is until it gets there, and then it's like, bam, this guy's amazing. So it's been pretty fun.
it's funny, like everything you're saying is kind of what I'm going through right now as a publisher. This is my rookie year, is doing all the stuff that we've been kind of advertising and we've been popping off the screen. That whole thing where you describe like building your superstars and stuff like that. You're right. Like you don't realize that it's like a train rolling at you. You don't realize how big the train's going to be until it like smacks you right in the face. You know what I mean?
And it's all a journey. The whole thing is a journey. You're starting off as one thing, and you're going to transform whether you want to or not. Nobody sits there and just maintains the same style forever. You're always working towards something. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. And there's always something that's going on, and your new work is always informed by the work that you've done before. So like I can't figure out how to draw a hand, and then you figure out how to draw 5 or 6 different versions of hands, and then it becomes, oh, I'm just drawing the same hand over and over again. What can I do to do something different? And you're constantly problem solving and constantly having to come up with working solutions for all sorts of problems that you presented to yourself. And and it's a fun journey. It's a fun being able to just discover what you're capable of and what you're incapable of, and try to stretch a little bit to get better, and look at everything in the world and try and figure stuff out. There's a lot there. But, a lot of guys who started off, it was pretty rough to begin with. And it's like, it's okay to suck, because, you're not going to get to the good stuff until you get through the sucking stuff. So it's like, is there a potential there? Can I get there? Can I get better? It's like, I sure hope so. But most everybody will eventually get to a point where they plateau, and then it's like a sad downward spiral from there. So,
God, I hope I haven't reached it yet. I'm only 35,
yeah.
but I'm pretty close. Hey, the journey is where it's all at. A lot of people don't realize it, but those little moments of success feel a little bit more important when you've had a ton of bullshit behind it. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah. I mean, it's cool. It's just to be able to have somebody whose work who you've been familiar with for years, suddenly have a conversation with them and have them pay you a compliment, or have them be like, "Oh, I've always wanted to meet you," and it's like, "What the hell, man? what are you talking about?" That's cool.
It is extremely cool, and even this moment right here, this is one of the coolest moments in my career. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, I think this is the kind of stuff that just doesn't just happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you being on the show tonight. Tell people where they can find you on social media.
Well, I mean, it's imagecomics.com, savagedragon.com. I'm on Facebook somewhere. Just look for my ugly puss. I'm on Twitter as Erik J. Larsen, because somebody else had just spell it right and we're good to go. And that's about it. And I continue to do both Savage Dragon and Ant. We'll see how long I can manage that. And like
Well,
that.
you're 58 years young, my friend. You've got forever to go. I can't wait to see how many issues you actually are able to get in before this thing's all said and done. It's one of the most legendary series that have ever been produced, and it's still going strong. And I don't think it's giving it up anytime soon, guys.
Not anytime soon.
What an incredible honor it has been to talk to you tonight. Please come on the show anytime you want to, my friend.
All right. Sounds awesome.
Awesome. It's been great. Guys, this has been Mr. Erik Larsen and Mr. Mark May for episode number 27 of the Mayhem Show. We are both out of here.
All right.